Hi everyone, thanks for taking the time to join today. We are recording the session for you to watch back or for your team members if you have missed the slot today. We're going to send out the whole presentation over the next few days with all the content and all the slides. So you should be able to have a look through those just to let you know. If you do have any questions, we've got a chat function on here, so feel free just to post them in there. I'll endeavour to answer as many as I can as we go through. Otherwise, I can revert back to you post a session if there's some that I don't manage to get round to. So just to manage your expectations, likely to run about 30 minutes in this. I'm conscious of everybody's time at the moment. I know for a lot of people it's a case of juggling everything at the moment, so I do appreciate you joining this session. Hope you find it useful. So we are in quite unprecedented times at the moment, so probably quite an apt time for us to talk about the challenges and trends affecting screening. So on that note, I thought the best way to start this was to actually just to talk through some of the recent COVID-19 amendments and updates that have come into effect and spend a little bit of time talking through that. Then go more into some of the more generic sort of struggles recruiters might face when screening and vetting candidates, looking at how to make more of a efficient process around this, or making checks as thorough as you can do, and looking at some new trends in screening and vetting, and maybe if you are looking at technology, things to consider before making that change, and just in general how we might be able to assist you at the moment in making some of this all a little bit easier, which I think everybody needs at the moment. So just to kick us off, some of the recent updates that have come out. So I'm going to share a lot of information on here. As these slides are being sent round, it'll probably be quite a good point of reference for you, just to have the links for government sites around what updates are coming, whether that be for the Home Office or whether that be for DBS checks. But just to start off with a few of the changes that have been made. So a couple of changes have been made, and adjustments, temporary adjustments, I suppose they should be called, have been made around the DBS process in relation to remotely checking ID documents. So the changes will enable people to actually view ID documents over video links now, and scanned images can be used in advance of the DBS check being submitted. So prior to this, I know it's a slightly different way of doing it around site checking documents, but with us all being stuck in our houses at the moment, they've made a temporary adjustment to this. So our technology sort of supports this by being able to send branded portal links out to candidates and collect some of that documentation. Obviously, a lot of our customers who are using our technology are also using things like video link tools to actually look at documentations remotely as well. But yeah, for those who might not even be familiar with that, all of the guidance I'm showing here can be found on the links within the service. So DBS has loosened up some of its restrictions around site checking those documents. So another update that came out on the 30th of March was around the Home Office and the DBS service actually putting arrangements in place for fast tracking of anyone actually working around NHS services and social care services, and providing those with free of charge checks. So again, there's some links in here. I'm not going to go through all the information on screen right now, but it's just a good source for you to be able to just work through how this might affect your current business processes, because now we are working remotely. There are a lot of different options available to you to use technology to actually validate people's documents. Now, a lot of the guidelines say that there's going to be a retrospective checking, particularly around right to work. So on the final point here around the right to work checks, again, these can be carried out over video calls, and applicants and workers can send in documents, photos of documents to check using email or mobile apps. We have things like our Right to Work app and our screening technology that can assist in working in this. But a lot of these temporary measures will also come to an end at some point, the nature of them being temporary. But the Home Office will let everybody know in advance when the measures will end, and then what you will have to do post that. As I said, there's probably going to be a retrospective checking of people post the interim. But again, there's some really handy links in here. So once this gets sent round, hopefully you'll be able to go through this in a bit more detail, but definitely keep up to speed with what's happening. That's just a few that I thought were worth mentioning at the moment. Obviously, disclosure. Scotland are doing this as well, so very similar to what I've just updated you around the DBS. It's a similar circumstance with Disclosure Scotland, but look to all your regulators, look to the legislation, look to the Home Office websites, use these sort of links, and we're probably going to run one of these every month or so just to keep people up to speed. But it's good to have a central resource for this as opposed to trying to click through multiple links. So those are some of the sort of brief updates. Obviously, we're working with a lot of our customers to use our technology to help assist with that changing legislation. But outside of that, I thought it'd be good just to cover some general challenges that recruiters tend to be facing anyway around these types of processes. So obviously, there's a big talent shift. Unemployment was at its lowest since 1975 at 3.8%. So a lot of candidates already employed. It's a case of just trying to find the best candidates at the minute. So that's a big problem at the moment. It means that candidates just have a lot more informed choices around companies that they can pick, but everyone still does have different expectations. So you need to try and really look at how you can manage everyone's expectations from millennials, Generation Z, all the way through to older generations, and how you engage with everyone. So just looking at that as a process within your business is quite difficult. A lot of our companies say that is a challenge as to how we engage and approach talent and how we engage with them throughout the process and keep them on board all the way through to placement. Obviously, it's easier to find candidates now, but it's a much more competitive market. So the trend and challenge that is out there for most people is having to move on candidates quickly. So trying to actually keep them engaged through the whole interview process, speeding up the screening process to avoid things like counter offers, but that may well come with challenges like actually not collecting the right data quickly enough, not collecting accurate data because you're trying to do it too quickly to get people through the process, and also actually balancing out the quality of those checks. And there is a lot of automation. We're a technology business, we provide a lot of automation, but businesses still need to try and get that balance between what's human interaction and what can we actually automate. So we work with a lot of companies to try and help them through those challenges and balance those things out. Obviously, there's big risks to your brand and reputation out there around getting things like this wrong. So again, just make sure you're up to speed with what all of the latest guidelines are. You don't want to be subject to civil penalties. I think it's up to £20,000 per illegal worker that you can be fined for getting the right to work checks wrong. I think the Home Office reported between January 18 and March 18, I think it's about £6.8 million worth of fines were induced for illegal workers. So definitely something you need to take seriously. Obviously, there's been all sorts of stories in the press around people who weren't qualified, didn't have the right to work for roles, and ended up exploiting that business, some to the tune of a couple of £100,000, and spent that on various things. I think one spent it on holidays and a jacuzzi and hot tubs, which sound quite appealing at the moment, but obviously you don't want people to be doing that within your organisation. So those are some of the challenges that are out there. Many businesses are at the moment just considering how they can be more efficient. Obviously, working from home and working remotely, again, brings a lot of people to consider technology as to how to make them more effective. But in general, even prior to that, businesses were just trying to gain efficiency around their screening and operational processes. So I'd say one of the key things around efficiency gains is just understanding what you need to screen for. So actually asking your clients for a particular role, what is now required for me to screen for that person. So many businesses have data from 10 years ago and just follow that same process for a nurse requires this or a project manager requires that, and it's not something they review that regularly. So definitely push back on your customers to understand exactly what you need to screen for. Review old policies and old documents, make sure it is the most up-to-date that you're working to. Don't give yourself more work. Vet people to the standards that you think are necessary, not to something that might have been in place for a long time that hasn't been reviewed. And automate, look to automate. If there are things like collecting references that you can automate that take up 80% of someone's time during the day, you can use technology to automate those processes. So definitely consider automation at the moment for efficiency, but make sure you do it right. So on the right here, you can see I've said 60% of candidates abandon complex online applications. So it's great putting technology in, but unless you get it right, you actually might be overcomplicating things. So just really work with your technology partners to make sure that if you are doing anything, that it's considered and fits into your process. So just a couple of things around how do you know what to screen for. So a few of the most obvious ones, things like identity and ensuring candidates are who they say they are, confirming the documents are genuine and valid, ties straight into the right to work process as well. So adhere to the Home Office regulations. They are changing. Try and find a resource to keep you up to date with what they are. Yes, we need to do things quickly, but for everybody, you'll still need to do right to work checks on people to make sure they're viable. Also around criminal and data checks, are you actually aware of which particular roles require that? Do you know what regulated environments you work to, who your bodies are, what criminal data standards you need? Do you need to run basic checks where you're just providing information on unspent convictions? Are you using standard level DBS checks where it checks sort of spent and unspent convictions, or are you in a sector where you're working on enhanced checks? I mean, obviously, for those of you who work in the more regulated sectors, I'm sure you'll be well aware of what's necessary, but just always make sure you know if that is necessary to do those security checks. So qualifications, collecting qualification documents, verifying that they're of the correct standards. 40% of job applicants falsify academic qualifications, so it's something we really have to look out for here. A lot of people are making up entire degree certificates. One of my colleagues' favourite example is buying a degree certificate online where you actually get nectar points as well. So I think that's his best example, is to say that I think someone got a first from Oxford University, but also kept themselves in cheese and ham for 2 weeks with their nectar points from Sainsbury's. So it's out there. There's schemes out there where people are selling these online. So let's just make sure that we're looking out for these qualifications and making sure that we're verifying them correctly. So referencing as well. Are you just doing this as a tick box exercise at the moment? So many businesses now, it's commonplace in the market where you can automate the reference process. So send out a portal link to a candidate, collect their details, portal link goes out to that referee, and it completes the reference process for you. So within that though, are you templating exactly the reference requirement that you need? Are you attaching a candidate's consent to go out on that reference? So really have a look at what you're doing with referencing and the purpose you're doing referencing. Is it because your client asks you to, or are you actually considering it to be something that's worthwhile to make sure it's the most relevant person to that business and they're going to stay in that company, and that thorough reference is being done? So yes to the right standards, but also think about the purpose of referencing. I know a lot of agencies actually spin sell off the back of references. That's fine, but think about how you're then communicating to that referee. And if you are using technology like ours, for example, where you're sending them a branded portal, and what sort of message are you conveying about your business around how you do referencing that you could then sort of spin sell off the back of? So referencing is a big thing that people are automating at the moment and checking, and then just make sure you're doing it properly and actually have considered why you're referencing. So what does the best practice screening process look like? So obviously there's a lot of efficiency gains to be had by looking at those examples that I've just mentioned. So some of the customers who I think are doing this best, and it may well be recruitment agencies or enterprise businesses that we work with directly, a lot of them tend to be doing it well because they just understand the requirements that are needed for the role. So just making sure that you're only vetting people to the degree that you need to. They know who within their business is responsible for carrying out those checks. So how much do your consultants do? How much do your admin staff do? Who are your customers who are involved in doing this? And just making sure those relationships are clear. And one of the most surprising ones I find is policy. That there's so many businesses I go to, and some quite big businesses as well, who just don't have a policy around vetting. So they'll be able to tell you what it is, but they don't really have anything documented. So for every other part of the business, they might have documentation as to how it works, but actually getting a policy together where you know exactly what to look out for, what roles require what requirements, whose responsibility is what. Just have that outlaid early on, and it just makes their lives a lot easier. Everyone who's got that seems to run quite an efficient process. They've reviewed their technology leads. So anywhere within the business where they've needed technology, they've reviewed that and just implemented what was necessary to assist them. So many recruitment businesses historically have used a CRM, and that's their central point of technology, and everything comes off the side of that. But there's a lot more technology out there now where you can automate compliance and operational processes, automate pay and bill. So actually look at what specific technology might also be there to help you become more efficient in these current times, particularly around things like remote document collection and everything like that. So there's plenty of technology around for you to be able to look at and add to your business. And also reporting. So doing all of this is great, but if you can't look at how you're performing against your SLAs, how audit trails are working, how you can present that to your clients, then you can't really review how successful it is. So if you do have a long process around reporting at the moment, you can't collect data, consolidate it somehow, whether it's using technology or a certain process, and just report on how everything's working. And then you can actually tweak your process as you go through. So some of the benefits of automated screening that our customers have seen that have given them a lot more efficiency is an improved candidate experience. So at the moment, more so than ever, when people are at home, they're just maybe reviewing emails, you can actually give candidates a much better experience. So through our technology, for example, you can send out a fully branded portal link. You can work all the messaging, provide any links, collect documentation, run reference checks, all in one place. So you're just giving the candidate a very easy process. Many people at the moment might not have much time on their hands where they're juggling their lives and working from home, which is quite difficult at the minute. So you want to give them the easiest experience possible to be able to still provide you with documents, provide you with data, and for you to give them a really good impression. So candidate experience is something that's always been really good with our system, as well as improving the time to hire. So making it fast and easy for the candidate, but making it fast and easy for you. So efficiency through technology is a big thing currently. It was prior to the pandemic, even more so now when people's time is constrained and you are working remotely. So actually having better visibility and control, having KPI and reporting at your fingertips within automated screening, you can do that. Making audits a lot more simple. So if you're working to NHS frameworks or by any of your clients audit you, if you have it all in the system in one place, you can see that everything is there and everything has a full audit trail, which makes your lives a lot easier around audit trails. You can align everything to your company and structure. You can create automatic alerts for things like expiring documents. So there's a lot you can do around automation that's just going to make your lives a lot easier. And obviously, if you are working with cloud-based tools, it means that you can access and remain operational. So ours as a technology business, we're used to working with hosted cloud-based tools. So the situation for us currently, our working environment isn't too different to how it was before. However, with your businesses, where a lot of people are office-based, it's important to have a technology partner there to assist you with how you're actually working in a hosted environment and what technology is out there to support your business. So I'll just really quickly run through an automated screening process as to how it maybe would have been and maybe how we can look at it now in this sort of temporary situation we're in. So there's technology across this stack from different areas. You might have in the first instance here a candidate applying for a role through a website or through a CRM. Previously, they may well have been arriving for an interview and providing documentation to you in an office. They could have used something like our Right to Work app to give you statutory excuse for right to work, start collecting right to work documents. They may well at this point have been offered a role subject to their background checks. At that point, a fully branded link can be emailed out to them for them to start entering their details into a candidate portal and giving consent to actually do things like DBS checks, credit checks, e-signing contracts. So a lot of technology, including ours, has integrations out to all of these data checks. Once the candidate's provided those, all these checks can begin automatically. And once they're completed, all of that information, so the documents, anything that's been signed, the reference process, the right to work documentation, that can all then be reviewed by an internal operational staff within your business and actually automatically create a compliance pack for audit or to send out to your customers. So that's probably how it would have worked before, when there was a lot of, or we were allowed to, so to speak, meet people face to face. Probably taken from step 5 onwards, in the current situation, you would more likely be sending out a candidate portal link on email. So send a branded portal out to candidates on email of a compliance process. Please provide me with references. Please provide me with documents. They're giving consent to do checks. They can do those checks through the automated system, and then you'll be surfaced with the result. So a lot of the earlier stages where you may well have been doing it face to face, you can still run that process and obviously adhere to the adjustments they've made in legislation by just running points 5 to 9. So it just gives a clear way of still remotely checking documents and giving people that good experience, even though you might not be able to meet them face to face at the moment. So a lot of efficiencies as well have been gained by actually integrating technology. So an example, we have a right to work app, so you can run people through a right to work process. That's also integrated to our screening technology. So it just is another administrative task that you want to minimize at the moment to help this process and time to hire work a lot more effectively. Across Access, we have a number of products within our recruitment division. So our screening platform also directly integrates into our CRM technology. So again, if you have consultants working from home, administrators and operational staff working from home, they can actually still communicate through cloud-based technology that's integrated. So I definitely would look at how technology can be integrated to actually share information, even though you are all based remotely. So those are some of the efficiencies that you can achieve at the moment. So what trends are out there, and what should you sort of consider in implementing change? Because it's quite a big thing, implementing change, particularly if you're doing it in these times. So I've brought together some points that I've collected mainly off customers and the wider team have been speaking to people about how things have changed recently. So a lot of businesses are saying that they've actually been forced to move at a faster pace to keep candidates in the process, and so they don't lose candidates. And what that means, though, is that sometimes they're just doing very basic checks on them, and then post onboarding trying to collect the rest of that information. So it's becoming more so now that a lot of companies are now vetting people to sort of a low standard, and then after onboarding are actually collecting the rest of the documents. There's a lot of risk in that. So although we need to move at pace, it's still really important to try and run through detailed referencing processes, do your correct checks at the right time. And if you have something like a software in place, you can actually still run at pace, but still complete those checks very quickly. So it is a trend where a lot of businesses tend to be only having the time to vet people post onboarding and just doing the very basic checks to get them on site. There's a lot of technology out there, but is it the right technology for you? So really consider, what technology do we need in the business? Is it something to help us revenue generate at the front end? Is it something around compliance that we need to automate? Is it something around pay and bill? You know, there's different technology now available to agencies that aren't just a CRM. But is it right for you? So I'd just look at what problem do you have in your business, and what process do you need to change? And try and just pin down, well, what technology can assist me to do that? So there's a lot out there, but just make sure you're reviewing what's relevant for you right now. Automated referencing, we spoke about it quite a lot. It's everywhere in the market. It's becoming commonplace now. Our technology is used by the majority of the larger agencies and many SME agencies in the UK. So it's becoming quite commonplace now for people to work off automated referencing. They're just used to it. Video interviewing, it's no surprise that's there. It seems to be very relevant. Obviously, at the moment, even more so. It's relevant than ever. Things like chatbots are coming up. But what I would say is it's just that balance between automation and human interaction. So use technology, use it to support your process, use it to help you work remotely, use it to help you with your basic administrative tasks. But what that should actually do is free up your time to speak to people, speak to candidates, and work on the more personal side of it. So it isn't something where you suddenly have to automate everything. It's get technology that works for your process and enhances your candidate's experience and improves your time to hire, but just get a good balance of it. So those are some of the key techs that are out there at the moment. Just some of the key takeaways before actually implementing the technology is just really looking at actually, do you need it? So you'll know if you need it by understanding what your policies are and what your true pain points are and what you're trying to improve. So if you're addressing all of those things, you will then understand whether you need a piece of technology in there, but actually look at what technology is out there, because sometimes you might not understand the efficiencies technology could bring you or the revenue it might actually be able to generate. So really understand what your current policies are, actively review them quite regularly, and keep up to speed with regulation and legislation, because at the moment it's changing. So we'll send around these slides with links to gov.uk and various sites, but we'll probably run a few more of these over the next few months for you to keep up to speed, but have a central point of resource where you can keep up to date on what is happening, because then you can implement technology to help you keep up to speed with those changes in legislation. And I think probably one of the most important things is, before implementing change, is actually making sure everyone's bought into the new technology and process. So you need to involve as many people as you can who are going to be using this technology and adopting this new process. You need to have them involved from the very start in reviewing the technology. So the more people you have brought in, the more successful these types of projects will be. Businesses like ours are used to working remotely. We can deploy software remotely. Everyone is still operational. A lot of businesses are implementing technology at the moment to help in the current situation. But for your company, a lot of people might not be as aware of what the technology does. So you really do need to educate them through the buying process and make sure they're involved in that procurement process, so they understand the benefits of it, and they can then sell that to the candidates. They can then sell that to your clients as a value add, that you have these processes and systems in place. But I would say that's probably one of the key points, and having seen technology implemented in businesses, if everybody is bought in, if they understand the benefits, it will go well, and you'll be able to get wins from it very quickly. So those are some of the key things I'd say are very important to look at when implementing within this current climate. So as I said at the start, we're in unprecedented times at the moment. I think it's key for you to keep up to speed with everything that's going on. With that in mind, we have a screening resources section on our website that you can use. All of the links and everything will go out in these slides as well. So definitely keep up to date with what's happening in the world. Have a look at what your struggles are, what the challenges are within your business. Maybe use this as a time where you can look at how you become more efficient, whether that's by just changing a process or by looking at technology to assist you. And also watch out for the latest trends that are coming up. Automation of references, things like video calls, remote document collection to meet legislation. Just look out for the latest trends and really consider what you're doing to implement change. So yeah, please do stay in touch. Look out for some more webinars. We'll be updating you as things change in terms of legislation around right to work and screening. I wish everybody all of the best at the moment in these difficult times, and yeah, please do get in touch with us if we can support you in any way. We're more than happy to do so. If you need any more information on this, please do let us know. But outside of that, yeah, thank you for all of your time, and yeah, if there are any questions, please feel free to pose them on the chat here, or otherwise I can come back to you after the session, after the email of us sending the resources around. Ask any questions there. And if you did want a demonstration of the software in more detail, we're more than happy to jump online for you for half an hour or so and just walk you through how things like our Right to Work app and our screening solution might be able to help you in the current climate. Thanks for everybody's time. Cheers.